Hey everybody, welcome to Clear Path Leadercast. I am live every Thursday at this time, coming in to help leaders build the confidence they need to lead more effectively, to have less stress, less second guessing of themselves, and really to learn how to sleep better at night. I grew up in corporate America, is what I call an accidental leader. Somehow found myself in Fortune 500 companies and increasing leadership roles, reconciling that with that I went to school to get an English degree. And a lot of the lessons I had to learn about business and leadership, purpose of what I do here at ClearPath Coaching and Consulting is to help you get those leadership lessons that much faster so that you don't have to struggle with it as long as I and others have done trying to really get their leadership philosophy together, how they want to approach things. So this week, what we're going to talk about is productivity. Did you know that a recent study showed less than 20% of leaders actually are productive? Leadership, you get into a leadership role and we may think, hey, this is great. I'm in leadership. I get to make all the decisions. Nobody gets to tell me what to do anymore. And that couldn't be further from the truth. What we're going to dive into today is how you can start to become more productive as a leader. So let's dive into this idea of leadership productivity. It's such a unique thing because as leaders, we're no longer typically paid for output. As leaders, we are paid for our responsibility and our decision making. But there are still things that we have to do. And there is an increasing amount of demand on our time. We find more and more people either below us or above us or to the side of us want something from us. Problems tend to rise their way up to us to resolve. Our bosses, if we're in a mid-level leadership role, have priorities they want done. I can think of many times in my own career sitting there on deadline trying to get something done that I needed for whatever my areas of responsibility were. And all of a sudden something comes flying in from the side or from above that suddenly was another priority that had to trump it because that was what my boss wanted. So how do we start? And those things happen. But the way for us to become more productive is to really drive into learning how to control our schedule better, how to control the time, how to control the assignments. And there are things that we can do as a leader to make us more responsible with our time. So we're going to cover three topics on this point today. One is how delegation can make you a more productive leader, how schedule discipline can make you a more productive leader, and how the art of saying no can make you a more productive leader. So let's break those down. One, delegating effectively. There's a lot of things to be said here about delegation, and there's going to be a future post about delegation. There's some older posts in the blog if you want to look through them, but I've been working on something new around it. So you get a preview of that today. Delegation is such a crucial task, but it is so misunderstood. People think delegation is I tell you to do this and then I get it back from you and it's done. And that couldn't be further from the truth. That's typically not, you can do it that way and you'll get it delegated, but chances are you're not going to get back what you were looking for. People are at different levels as you're going through, on your team, different levels of ability to be effective delegatees, which may be a word I just made up. You really need to think about if this is the first time you've delegated a task to them, you're going to have to be much more directive in how you want that task done. You're going to have to be very clear and step-by-step things of what it is you want, how you want it approached, and how you want it to look on the other side. These are really important things to consider. That first time you're delegating a task is you're going to have to be very directive. Now, over time with that task, as you do that again in the future, you'll have to be less directive. You can start to become more supportive, not stepping in at every level of that delegated task, but coaching and supporting, seeing what questions they have, checking in less frequently. Then over time, it becomes more coaching, just encouraging and trying to get them the help they need to think it through. And then the final stage is where you can effectively just hand it to them and delegate it and not worry about it. And you'll get back what you want on the other side. A lot of that's documented in something called the situational leadership model. They have some applications on their side too of what they're able to do and what questions they ask of you. But to really effectively delegate, you have to think about who am I delegating this to? How much do they know about it? And how directive do I need to be? And a lot of times that's the trap is we say, well, it's going to take me so much time to delegate this. I can get it done with myself much faster. And I hear that from coachees all the time. Well, it's just faster for me to do it myself. And you know what? It is. that time. But when you take the time to delegate effectively and take them through that process that I just talked about, it will save you time. That half hour of you doing it yourself once a week turns into almost a full work week by the end of the year that you can delegate and you can focus on the higher level, future oriented tasks required of a leader. So, delegation, crucial. Learn how to do it, learn how to do it well. If you struggle with it, give me a call. You see down here at the bottom, let's connect, set up an intro call. Let's talk about where your challenges are with delegating effectively and see what we can do to help you get there. Number 2, let's talk about schedule discipline. This is another key area for leaders. Believe it or not, even in a leadership role, people jam meetings on your schedule. It still happens. You own your schedule. You have to take control of your schedule. So how do you do that? Probably one of the more extreme people I know. So a guy who's former military I worked with in one of the financial services companies, he made every appointment go through his assistant, and his assistant was under strict instruction that he was always to have 15 minutes between meetings. So you could imagine how that got jumbled up. And he was very faithful to that. And she was a great gatekeeper for this individual to make that happen. Now, you might not have to take that extreme of a measure to get your schedule under control, but start thinking about what your daily and weekly schedules need to look like optimally for you. What times of the day are you most productive? Time block those for your productive tasks. What time of days are you wanting to be more engaged? That's when you want to try and take the meetings. So try and schedule your time. Block out times for must-do meetings, project time, break time, even just walking around the office or walking around the building to give yourself a break. I'm not going to tell you that things aren't going to pop up and get layered onto your schedule still, but at least when you start controlling your schedule, it's going to happen less frequently. And when it does, you're going to have the ability to say, hey, because of this happened, this thing I was going to schedule isn't going to happen. And I can start moving. I know what I didn't get done because of this other priority that popped up or this meeting my boss wanted to have. But you've got to have your schedule locked and loaded and blocked for the things that you want to do and the things that you need to do. Sometimes even as a leader, let's keep in mind, as a leader, again, as I said earlier, you are paid for the decisions that you make and the responsibilities that you carry. And if you are not giving yourself time to think through those decisions, to think about the future, to think about larger implications of things you're working on, you are not going to be an effective leader. So you've got to carve out that time. Get in, we've had some other discussions around meetings. Don't create meetings that don't need to happen. Don't default to that stupid hour-long meeting or 30-minute meeting. Schedule your meetings in smaller increments. If you schedule it for 15 minutes, things are going to get done in 15 minutes. So block out that schedule. Give yourself time between appointments to recover. Those are the things that you want to do to take control of your schedule. Again, not a perfect science, but the more control you start with, the better off you will be over the long haul. So that's the second item, is really get focused on taking control of your calendar so that you can start moving things forward effectively. Finally, the last piece, and probably both the most important, most crucial, and most difficult of these things to do, is to learn to say no. We all want to be helpful. We all want to try and get people the resources and get the things they need. But sometimes people want to invite you to things or involve you in things that aren't necessarily crucial to your goals or aren't necessarily required of your attendance. So you need to start learning to say no. You can take accountability for it, saying, I have other things on my calendar. There's lots of things you can do to say no. If you're not required in a meeting, but maybe you need to know that information from the meeting, say, no, I won't be attending that meeting. Send me a summary of what you come out with at the end. And if your team's not actually writing up meeting notes, that's its own problem. We should be documenting the decisions that are made and the discussions that happen in meetings. So make sure that gets done. Get that summary, check in on it on the other side. If you're needed, you're certainly available to go in, but it's really important that you not attend every meeting. As a leader, everyone wants, either for their own vanity or for their own insecurity or whatever it may be, they want you in the meeting, but you need to learn to say no. Probably one of my greatest moments was when some vendor called a meeting pulled my whole team in for a meeting. And I cut the meeting off at 10 minutes saying, this is not a necessary meeting, is not in line with our objectives or priorities. There will be a time and a place for this meeting, and it's not today. You need to say no to those things that are going onto your calendar. Another good rule of thumb, don't say yes to something 6 months from now that you would say no to if you were asked to do it tomorrow. Don't agree to a meeting that's 3 months from now because it's 3 months from now. I won't worry about that. Now, if you wouldn't agree to whatever this obligation is, if it were the next morning, don't agree to it if it's 3 to 4 months out. That's how you start saying no, learning to say no. It's a little easier to say no when it's out in the future too. So really take that opportunity. It's not easy. It's going to piss people off. It's going to disappoint people, but you are responsible for the whole business or the whole division or whatever it is that your scope of responsibility is. And you've got to say no if you're going to do that job effectively. So that's it for today for how leaders can be more productive. Learn to say no, take control of your calendar, and delegate effectively. Something coming up soon on delegation. So those are really the tasks I wanted to outline for you today. Get started on those. These aren't always easy to do. So if you'd like to learn more, schedule a call for you and I to talk at clearpathcoaches.com/intro call, all one word, intro call, because I like to keep it simple. There's lots of things we can do. We might be able to solve your problem just in that intro call. We can schedule half-day sessions, longer-term coaching engagement, lots of different opportunities for you to grow so that you could go from being kind of that accidental leader who's looking around going, man, how did I get here, to the leader you aspire to be. Thanks everybody so much for joining today. I will talk to you next week.